A warm welcome back to your latest industry recap, and today is a little bit of a special on Boeing and the state of the company after it reported a major loss, but also explained a little bit about what it expects for 2025. Firstly though, let's take a look at that all-important third quarter, where their financial performance was unfortunately highlighted through a colossal net loss of over USD 6 billion. The planemaker says that the loss followed major strike action led by the International Association of Mechanists and Aerospace Workers, or just more simply IAM, which represents tens of thousands of employees that have been long seeking to better their overall wages for the contract that they're on. Furthermore, the major multi-billion-dollar loss is a stark warning about the current state that Boeing finds itself in, which is ultimately far from optimal and of concern to some analysts, who warn that cash preservation is required to essentially preserve the company. While Boeing has an incredibly strong backlog totaling hundreds of billions and also expects orders to continue coming in, which has been a highlight in a relatively dark period for them, there are struggles in actually getting through this backlog, and this could be from the certification of jets to just getting planes out on time. Just a week before those third quarter results came to air, Boeing, for example, delayed the entry into service and therefore your first delivery of the 777X to 2026, a move to try and preserve its financial position, but also because it knows that 2025 is now very much unrealistic. The struggles do run far deeper than this. Just 116 planes were delivered in the third quarter, which was almost somewhat successful when considering the strike action that they faced. However, this figure that I speak of is still dramatically lower than what was targeted at the end of 2023 for this year. Again, just to reiterate to you, 2024 was meant to be another year of building stability in the company, increasing production across key aircraft programs, trying to work through supply chain issues, and ultimately be the provider of aircraft to its airline customers that they deserve. A week in, that was all decimated. If it isn't strike action that's hurting them, it's the increased oversight from the Federal Aviation Administration following many safety incidents. The oversight has prevented Boeing from increasing production on key aircraft programs and has generally stunted any prospective attempts to work through the backlog. The fear, and I'd probably say this is a logical reason, is if that production was allowed to increase so soon after so many safety incidents, well, it would negate all the work being done to try and turn around the plane maker's fortunes. Despite a substantial loss, which I've got to add was to be expected, and based on previous financial statements is actually one of their worst in the last 6 years, Boeing remains cautiously optimistic. In the second part of this video, I will get into 2025 and what we can come to expect for that. The optimism is led though by new leadership, most notably the president and CEO Kelly Ortberg. He understands the plane maker's role, but believes the right steps are being taken to try and turn around for the future. Boeing does want to be iconic and return to that former legacy that it had, which will be fundamentally harder than maybe initially expected and is seen as a long road to recovery. But there are positives. The plane maker has invested hundreds of millions into the efforts already by implementing new safety practices such as seminars, tools, and much more. But it still has an uphill battle, and 2025 is going to be another year that'll be filled with turbulence. But if they can stick the course and avoid, say, any major problem emerging, it should be more successful than this one. The outlook of a struggle does follow that net loss that I spoke of. While the new CEO and president expressed optimism, 2025 isn't necessarily expected to be the saving grace that the plane maker may require. Generally, 2025 is seen to be another complex year in which Boeing must find ways to mitigate further internal issues that could not just damage but further delay the turnaround measures that are beginning to be implemented now. Boeing must also find ways to ensure that its financials remain as stable as possible, which in their current state are far from it. Ortberg says stability will be crucial in the future if there's any hope of a turnaround. And the word stability is very, very important. In tomorrow's video, I'll be taking a look at an update surrounding Boeing's next new aircraft. And again, the common word that pops up is stability. The leading story, though, regarding what we can expect from 2025 is the continued burning through cash is all but guaranteed. And while concerning, the knowledge that this will be happening is probably better than, say, going into 2025, expecting this not to happen and then it doing so. In response to news that the planemaker would burn through cash, of course their shares have dropped. This has been a continued theme, and this was also due to the significant loss that spiraled Boeing further into the deep end, with a lot of people losing confidence if they hadn't already. Ortberg firmly believes that Boeing can and will turn around its fortunes and become that all-important legacy company that it was known in the mid to late 1900s, when innovation was key and each new aircraft that was released seemingly looked to push the boundaries of the sector that it was slotting into, whether that was the Queen of the Skies and the beloved 747, or just thinking back to what the Boeing 767 did for the aviation industry, with thanks to the development of ETOPS. It really helped propel twin-engine flying, which today, as we sit here almost in 2025, we can say that the 767 taught manufacturers a lot. But the thing is, Boeing isn't a small company, and the damage that has been done on a public scale over the last 6 years, and we could stretch that towards a decade if we're looking more internally, has damaged the manufacturer. While the damage is very significant, Boeing still believes that it can fund its operations for the foreseeable future, and this forecast comes down to estimates on market demand, production rates, cash receipt timing, and the overall ability to implement action to improve long-term liquidity. Long-term forecasts will be a focal point for Ortberg as we close out the 2024 year, with a call stating that reviewing them will help position the company in a suitable way. To cope with the struggles that have hit the planemaker, there's been talk of the prospective sale of core assets, and this would already follow the downsizing of the business that was announced, with well over 10,000 employees to be cut in a bid to save money. This should really identify to you the situation that Boeing finds itself in. Ultimately, the commercial airplanes division and also defense will see things be placed on the chopping board in a means to preserve cash. A great deal of this focus on downsizing is to make sure that the manufacturer day-to-day operations and just generally what it's conducting is done in the most optimal manner, rather than running, say, a massive operation that is inefficient and will be detriment to them. There's some really important things on the horizon that have been a talking point here on the channel for many years, but will equally be a major focus for Boeing in the next 12 months. How can it move forward with its uncertified programs? Will we finally see progress with them? Of course, we have had those problems with regards to strike action that it needs to work through and recover from, and so much more on top of that. Can it restore the faith in the public? And probably, can it just get through a year without having any issue creep in? Those are all massive question marks that no doubt will be at the top of the agenda for next year, and I'll be keeping a close eye on that right here on the channel. Take care, be safe. If you have any thoughts, you're more than welcome to drop them down below in the comments. No doubt people will have opinions on either the over $6 billion loss or just generally what they hope to see in 2025. Thanks a lot for watching. Take care, be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow for an update on Boeing's next new commercial airliner.
And we'll fly.